Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in my little converted garage on this Friday. Joining me in all the fun today, of course, coming to us from the Observatory, one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. How you doing today, sir?
You know what, dude? Last night I went and saw the Pierce Brothers sequel to The Wretched Devours. It's in the later stages of post-production, and it's dope.
And also joining us, I'm going to guess, did not go to see that same movie. Jonathan Voico's joining us all the way from Burbank.
It sounded delightful, but no, I didn't get the invite to that one. By the way, did you hit record? Because I forgot to mention that.
I didn't, but it's just for the segment, so I'll hit record right now.
Perfect.
There we go. I hit record. I always forget to hit record on the show. I am the bane of Jonathan's existence. But most importantly, guys, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a number of predetermined topics we got set up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show is when I'm going to take your live comments and questions. If you're watching live, and you do have to be watching live to send in a live question, you can use the super chat feature to send in a question or a topic. And as long as I deem it to be appropriate to be addressed on the show, we'll address it in the second part of the show. All right. By the way, just as a little follow-up to, I'm just actually had to double check the numbers now. So a little bit of a follow-up to that story we did yesterday about the fake thing going around that, the Odyssey trailer got 600,000 dislikes, which we showed you. No, it did not. Just a follow-up to that. So I looked at the segment that we did on that, and if you look at it, it says that segment has 920 likes. If you're using the extension that everybody's using, it shows 1,200 dislikes. I'm like, wow. And I went into the YouTube analytics. Yeah, it's got 150 dislikes.
Yeah, because when you multiply the divided number, it's always going to be ratioed.
But according to that extension, it's got 1,200 dislikes. No, it doesn't. But anyway, just a slight follow-up to that. Anyway, guys, we've got some stuff to talk about here today, so let's not waste any more time and dive right into it, shall we? And we're going to start off with this. Speaking of the Odyssey, of course, it is nigh. I mean, the Odyssey is nigh. I'm going to go see it on Thursday. I'm sure a whole ass ton of you guys are going to go see it on Thursday. But the question has been, how big will it be? I mean, you look at something like Oppenheimer, and it nearly joined the $1 billion club. A little period piece biopic almost made $1 billion. So how big can Odyssey be? Now, I've always said, I acknowledge that the Odyssey has a shot at $1 billion, but I've also, if you guys watch the show, know I've had some skepticism about that because, in the last 30 years, an estimated 10,000 R-rated films have come out. You know how many of those joined the $1 billion club? Folie à deux. Only 2.
But if you multiply that too by the amount that
but
didn't,
if you multiply
you actually
by
have
the number of likes,
way more.
And of course, those two movies that have joined the $1 billion club that are R-rated films are, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine and the first, not Folie à deux, but the first Joker movie. Only 2 ever in history. So, I mean, that's a tall order for it to be. But how big can Oppenheimer be? Well, the final round of tracking for the movie is now out. And every one of the metrics is saying it's going to open now bigger than Oppenheimer did. How much bigger? That depends on who you're looking at. That's part of the question. But if you go ahead and take a look at right now what they're estimating on this at the moment, we see this. We've got Oppenheimer open to 82.4 million. Now, opening to 82.4 million, it went on to make $975.8 million. Like, again, nearly $1 billion film for a period piece biopic, which is crazy. The Odyssey right now is projected to open. Again, all the places are saying over Oppenheimer, but by how much there is some difference of opinion. Some are saying 90 million, some are saying up to 110 million of an opening weekend, which would be one of the biggest openings for R-rated film ever. It would be on the list at any rate. So I guess the question kind of becomes, when we look at Oppenheimer having an 80-something million opening, it's not necessarily going to have the exact same ratio, right? That we can't just take a mathematical formula and say, well, if Oppenheimer opened 82 and it ended with 975, that means if the Odyssey opens to 110, it'll make 1.7 billion. No, it's not going to be like that. Like, there's going to be a lot of different variables that go into it. But it does raise an interesting question. If it does open bigger than Oppenheimer, which they're saying it will now, what's the ceiling? If Oppenheimer opened to 80 and nearly got to $1 billion, can the Odyssey do it? I'm still skeptical. Like, I know it can. It's possible it gets to $1 billion. But I'm still skeptical of it, again, because it's only ever been done twice in history. So it's got that working against it. Anyway, Rob, you see these numbers here. How big do you think the opening is going to be? And then do you think it can end up with Oppenheimer-like worldwide numbers, exceed it, fall a little bit short of it? How are you seeing this right now?
Well, having not seen the movie, but listening to people's responses and judging by the fact that you cannot get a 70 millimeter IMAX ticket for this movie for weeks, it's sold out in most of the big venues if they're showing true 70 millimeter IMAX. I would say the interest level for this movie is high, John. And added to the fact that it is a fantasy film. It's got gods and cyclopses and men being turned into pigs and battles and, love and romance. I would say that I would call this movie a zeitgeist film. And if it is truly delivering what you always like to say, experiential events, I can't imagine a movie that is going to be more experiential than this, with the possible exception of Dune 3. But they're kind of in the same milieu in terms of providing that experience. So I think, and again, every time I say something like this, people are like, well, you said this movie is going to make $1 billion. Well, I haven't seen it. Okay. But from what early indicators, I would say this probably could make $1 billion. And I wouldn't be surprised if it totally exceeds $1 billion. But again, that's only by early word of mouth. The fact that there's obviously an extraordinary amount of interest in this film from the general public based on early IMAX sales tickets. It all comes down to whether the movie is good. Does it deliver the goods? Does it provide an experiential event? I mean, I would say the fact that it's the first movie shot in IMAX alone, total IMAX. It's
never been done before.
Experience. Never been done before. It really depends on how good the movie is, but I do think it has a leg up because it's providing an experiential event cinematically that has never been seen before.
Well, you add on top of that, Jonathan, you were saying before we started rolling the cameras today, something about like the IMAX is near you and the tickets. What were you saying about that?
So that's actually what I was just going to say, is that I think this thing's going to have sustained. By the way, apropos shirt today, Rob, with Oppenheimer,
Yeah.
Barbenheimer going on. But I think this thing's going to have sustained box office legs, because for weeks, if you look, like I thought, oh, well, midweek, the 70 millimeters are there's going to be openings for
The
sure.
IMAX you're talking about.
Yeah, the IMAX. Yeah. And 7 a.m. on a Wednesday? Nope, sold out. And it goes on for like 3 weeks. 3 weeks. So I understand it's just the IMAX, the 70 millimeter, whatever, but I still think that's an indicator that we're not going to see like a 70%, 65% drop off on weekend 2. I think it's going to have sustainability. So it could do
like
very
Rob
well.
said, it will come down to, is the movie good or not? Now,
Yes.
all the real film critics who went to go see the film already, they're saying it's going to be a best picture of the year contender. A lot of the awards sites are now already listing Oppenheimer as the #1 lead horse, no pun intended, to get that. Then again, I thought Supergirl was going to be good. And
Yeah.
look how that turned out. Then again,
But
I thought Craven was going to be good, but then
But
I
to
was
be-
alone in that.
But to be fair on that, though, the reviews kind of led into Supergirl being just okay. I mean, the
That's
initial
true.
reactions were positive, as they typically are. But as the full reviews were coming out, it started to get panned. Whereas this has just been getting like, this is the greatest thing ever, you know?
Well, and it'll be interesting to see if it can actually live up to that. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, all the projections are saying the Odyssey is going to make even more in its opening weekend than Oppenheimer did, and Oppenheimer went on to make almost $1 billion. Again, I think that's a tall order because only 2 R-rated films have ever done it in history. I don't know. Whatever you guys think about that, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, you know, everybody is kind of looking forward to, of course, Spider-Man and then Avengers Doomsday and then Avengers Secret Wars. But we all know that then coming after that is the 7-year long-awaited final arrival of the X-Men into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I still remember the day that it got announced that Disney was buying out Fox and all that kind of stuff. And people say, we're going to get an X-Men movie next year, despite the fact that Kevin Feige said, no, we've already got the next 5 years planned. Yet, nevertheless, every time a new Marvel movie was coming out, everybody would project and predict that X-Men were going to pop up in that movie. Well, here we are now, many years later, but we are finally going to be getting an X-Men film. And we know it's being directed by the same guy who directed Thunderbolts, which I think he did a marvelous job on Thunderbolts. So who's going to be their villains, all that kind of stuff? Well, there's a report going around that we will file this one under the rumor mill. We're going to file this one under the rumor mill. But you guys might have seen, if you follow a lot of the online sites, that they're reporting right now that Narcos star and the secret agent, Golden Globe winning, Academy Award nominated actor Wagner Moura, they're saying he is being talked to play the role of Nathaniel Essex, AKA, honestly, one of the dumbest names in comic books, Mr. Sinister. How dare you?
You shut your dirty mouth.
How on the nose can you be? What's your name? My name's Big Bad Guy. I am Mr. Sinister. By the way,
call himself that.
I think Nathaniel Essex is one of the greatest villains in comic book history. Like, to me, other than Magneto, I actually think Mr. Sinister is like a low-key MVP of my all-time favorite comic book story, Age of Apocalypse. But whatever. But they're talking about Wagner Moura playing the role. And this guy, look, we're going to ask the same 2 questions we always do with rumored casting. We're going to talk about whether we think it's believable, and then we're going to say, okay, let's assume for a minute it's real. How would we feel about it? Let me start with the believability of this. I'm going to lean to the side of believability because, and I only say this about once out of every 10 or 20 casting rumors that come around, this is one I heard myself a number of weeks ago. I didn't like, but that doesn't mean anything though, guys. Like, I get like 20 of these come across into my email inbox like every day, and 99.999% of them don't mean anything. And that's why I never bring them up and talk about them. But this one is interesting because this is actually one that I heard mentioned to me a few weeks ago. That does not mean it's legit. It doesn't mean it's real. I just thought I should at least mention that I'm going to find this at least a little bit more believable than some of the previous sort of casting rumors that we've had. The other reason I find it a little believable is because this is a great guy to come out of the gate with. Mr. Sinister is a great guy to come out of the gate with because there are a lot of other bigger bads, like whether you want to do Apocalypse or whether you want to do Onslaught, or whether you want to do like different stories, and how do you want Magneto to fit into all this? Is he your villain? Is he an anti-hero? I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go with Magneto and all this too. And nothing says you have to have just one villain in a film. So because it's Mr. Sinister, and I think he's a great introductory kind of villain for an X-Men movie franchise, that's why I also think it's kind of believable. Okay, let's move on from the is it believable thing, which I'll lean towards believable. Let's assume now for a moment that it's true. It might not be, but let's just, for the moment, for the sake of the discussion, let's assume it is. How would I feel about it? Bang on world class. Bang on absolute world class. This guy got all of our attention when he was in Narcos. Like the whole world sat up and took notice. And then, of course, like with Secret Agent, he just kind of snuck in there and caught the world by surprise again. The dude is absolutely phenomenal. Is he like the number one best guy in the world to do it? Oh, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe there are a couple of other names that we could come up with that would also be very, very good. But you know me, when it comes to X actor and X role, is the person you're putting up there a ridiculously talented performer? Wagner Moura is an award-winning, ridiculously talented performer. And what I think he could bring to this role would be just nutty. Anyway, Rob, let's go over to you on this. The two questions we always ask with these rumor mill castings. Number one, do you find it believable that he could be playing Mr. Sinister? And then number two, just regardless of what you think about the first question, assuming it's real, how would you feel about it? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think it's absolutely a possibility he's playing Nathaniel Essex, because why not? They haven't used Mr. Sinister. I mean, they were building up to it, but they never actually used him.
Remember, they were going to use him. Originally, they were going to use him in New Mutants, and they were going to shoot like a post-credit scene with him and all that kind of stuff, and all that got abandoned. But
yeah,
we never got him in live action.
Was it the end of The Wolverine where you see, or was it in?
The little foreshadowing thing they did. Yeah.
So I think, I mean, look, I've always loved the character. I don't care that if he walked into a room, no one's going to believe he's good in that garb. I mean, there's just something, he's totally garish and over the top, but I love him anyway. But Wagner Moura is currently starring in Flesh of the Gods, the new Panos Cosmatos movie he's co-starring with Kristen Stewart, with a script by Seven's Andy Kevin Walker that I read years ago. That's just insane. And it's kind of a vampire 80s. It's Bret Easton Ellis meets The Hunger kind of. I can't wait. But he's great. And I think he'd be a perfect Mr. Sinister. And, I'll tell you one thing, like, people make fun of it, but I thought that what Oscar Isaac did as Apocalypse was amazing. He was so good as Apocalypse. The only problem was that movie doesn't have a third act, really. And the first half, I think, is really, really good. But I'm
not so sure it had a first act or a second act either, but that's just me.
It did. But it's hard. This character is hard to portray on. I mean, both Apocalypse and Mr. Sinister are hard to portray on screen and make them credible.
Yes.
And but I love Mr. Sinister. I love me some X-Men. I was driving into LA last night, and I was flipping through Instagram as I drove, as one does, and there was all these clips from Days of Future Past, and it was the scene where Wolverine shows up at X Mansion looking for the professor.
Oh, and he talks to Hank. Yeah,
and he's like, "Beastie, you're in there." I mean, I'm like, that movie is so good. It's so good, and I really hope. I honestly, John, I am deliriously excited to see what the MCU does with the X-Men, because I love the X-Men like I love Star Trek. Like, I always say that, but I really do. And man, they can do a lot. I hope it's great. Please be great.
Whenever one of us brings up X-Men Days of Future Past, I can't help but wax poetic. This conversation comes all the time. Like, whenever you talk about top 10 greatest comic book movies of all time, I unapologetically, maybe top 5, but I'll at least easily that X-Men Days of Future Past is the top 10 greatest comic book film of all time. That movie's so good.
And Hugh Jackman is so good in it.
Yeah.
That whole scene when he talks to the professor, it's like a 10-minute scene. And there's a great shot where he's walking down the corridor and Beast is behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like practical where it just jumps behind. It's so great.
Almost, I might even think better than that is like those scenes where it's like on the plane and Logan is just and Magneto are just talking. Like, it's like, it's all character.
Yeah.
It's all character. I love that one.
And there's two different cuts of it.
Yeah. So
the road cut.
The big question we have going into it is, is Marvel going to be delivering us X-Men Days of Future Past, Marvel X-Men 2 X-Men? Or is it going to be giving us Age of Apocalypse, X-Men 3, kind of X-Men. I kind of hope the original, but we'll see.
I think they're going to lead up to it. I think they're going to
Mm.
use the X-Men crossover events are so large that I think they'll give us multiple X-Men movies and lead up to an Age of Apocalypse or lead up to Days of Future Past or lead up to the Dark Phoenix saga. They'll build it up the way it has never been built up before.
By the way, I'm going to assume somebody just in the live chat threw this in. Remember I said, like, I'm not saying Wagner Moura would be the only guy to do it. There could be better. When you say Ellis, if you're talking about Tom Ellis, the guy who played Lucifer, Dark Smirk, if they had come out and announced Tom Ellis, who played Lucifer on the TV show Lucifer, was going to play Mr. Sinister, holy shit, man. That would almost be on the level of casting Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier to me. Like, that would be right up there. He would be so good in that role. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Again, remember, this is firmly in the rumor mill department, okay? But there are reports going around that we could be getting Golden Globe, Academy Award nominated actor Wagner Moura as maybe playing Nathaniel Essex, also known as Mr. Sinister, in the upcoming X-Men relaunch. You like it? Don't like it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on and talk about this, shall we? You know, I really liked X-Men 97. I really got a big kick out of it. I had a really good time watching it for season 1 when it came out, but I have been behind. I have not been able to start watching X-Men 97 season 2. And every morning I feel like when I put out the call to our subscribers, hey, you know what, we've already got a bunch of topics, but what topics would you guys like to hear us talk about? Every single day, people writing in, we want to hear talk about X-Men 97. So yesterday I had a few hours where Anne was out playing golf. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I opened up a bag of Doritos, poured myself some Zevia. I'm like, and got my dog. And I'm like, I'm going to get caught up in X-Men 97. So like everybody who wants me to talk about it can now hear me talk about it. So away we went, watching X-Men 97. And let me preface it by saying this. As much as I really liked X-Men 97 season 1, and I did, big thumbs up from me, a lot of fun. The two kind of critiques I had for it was, number one, there was more than a few times where the dialogue felt like it was being written for 3rd or 4th graders. Like, the dialogue quite often sounds like it's being written for a child audience. Not that the stories were, but quite often the dialogue was kind of childish, to be honest with you. Whatever, no big deal. The other thing was that it's a very rushed series. It's a very Twitter series, right? Like, they would take these stories that should by rights really be 2.5 hour long stories, and they'll tell them in about 26 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so it's very jumpy, like it's very short attention span kind of, but for what it was still really enjoyable. And I had a really, really good time with it. Season 2, I still like, so I'm now all caught up with where they're at. I believe they're 4 episodes in. Regardless, I got up to the big one with the big confrontation between Magneto and Apocalypse and blah, blah, blah. So I'm all caught up. And I gotta say, I know a lot of you guys aren't going to like hearing this, but I always got to be honest with you. I still like it, but the two qualms I had with season 1 that didn't bother me that much, they were just there. I feel like it's really been emphasized in season 2. I find the dialogue extremely kiddie, like very, very, very childish dialogue. And it really irritates me sometimes, especially when like you're hearing like over simpleton things being said by Beast or Eric or whatever. Like, it's like, it feels like a child wrote the dialogue. The story is there. The story is still there. But I feel like, oh my God, so much of this dialogue really feels like they went to a grade school and got children to write the dialogue. And it really started to grate on me. The second thing was the other thing that bothered me in the first season, only more so. All the story feels insanely rushed. Like everything feels totally rushed. Like everything going from, I'm a leader now, to full on invasion of the city. It's like, wait a minute, like we've lost so much that could have been extrapolated on and really been rich and given a depth and it's just, nope, just boom, boom, boom. Very, very Twitter, short attention span, short bites. Just all you need to know is A, B, C, D, and then roll the credits. And it's like, and like the funny thing is I still enjoy it. I do still enjoy it because like I said, like the story is there. The story is there. And I loved the original X-Men series and all that kind of stuff. So I still like it. Don't get me wrong. But I gotta admit, I like it less than I did in season 1 because the 2 nitpicks I had with it seem to be doubled down on this season. Really childish dialogue. Even though they've got some quite mature story, really childish dialogue combined with extremely attention deficit disorder, rapid pace storytelling that makes me feel like I'm being robbed a little bit when I'm watching it. But I still like it. I do. It's just that you guys have been asking me to kind of give my thoughts on it. And that's kind of where I am right now. I understand they're bringing Onslaught into it, which is really interesting because Onslaught's one of the most interesting villains they ever had, who's an amalgamation of Magneto and Charles Xavier kind of mashed into one. And that would be a problem to deal with. So I'm going to be interested to see where they go with there. Anyway, Rob, I know you liked X-Men 97 the first season. Have you been keeping up with the second season?
I've watched the first 3 episodes. I feel just like you. And I felt this way to a certain extent about the first season. It is incredibly rushed. And obviously, it as the original series was in 92, it is directed at younger audiences. And it feels like a breezy Cliff's Notes version of all of these stories. And like you said, this second season, the dialogue does feel dumbed down. But I do enjoy watching it only because it's fun to see these things depicted. I mean, they kind of mix and match certain things in the various plot lines. So it's still a show, it's still a show directed at people who like the original and watched it as part of Fox Kids. But I do enjoy it. I mean, it does put a smile on my face. And I like the fact they're like bite-sized morsels. So if I'm waiting, if I've taken a shower and I have to wait a half an hour to leave or go somewhere, I'm going to throw on an episode of X-Men 97. And I enjoy myself, and it's nice to hear that theme still works over 30 years later. So I enjoy it. But
yeah,
it's not great.
Yeah.
The problem is,
I wish I did.
The problem that I kind of see with it is that it's geared towards a younger audience, but it was marketed towards an older audience of nostalgia from watching it in the 90s when we were like in high school and college. So then you're watching it as an adult because you think you're getting back into it, but it's really geared towards, the next generation of kids or the generation after that. So that's, you have to take it for what it is.
I still think it's like, I'm talking about the 2 things about it I don't like, which has dampened my enjoyment of it, but I still enjoy it. Like seeing like characters like Apocalypse, some of the whole parent issues with Nathan, there's definitely good stuff in there, and I'm watching it and I'm going to continue to watch it. I'm going to finish it out. I wish I could say I enjoyed it as much as a lot of our viewers seem to enjoy it, because like the heaps of praise that it gets from a lot of our viewers who clearly are really enjoying it and really loving it. I wish I had that too, but I just got to be honest. I just always have to be honest with our audience. If I just wanted to, grift off you guys, I'd come on here too and say, yeah, it's the best thing ever. But I got to be honest. I know that's going to turn some of you off. I know some of you aren't going to like the fact that I don't like it as much as you do, but I have to be honest. And those are the parts about it that's bothering me. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Have you been watching X-Men 97? And if so, what do you think about season 2? Maybe more applicably, how do you think it's compared to season 1 so far? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? It's time for us to do something we haven't done, I don't think this week, and that is to play ourselves a little game of overreaction. The way overreaction works is really quite simple. We jumped onto the YouTube community page a little bit earlier, and we asked you guys to submit your hottest of hot takes. And then we would gather up a few of them, and Rob and I will adjudicate whether we feel your hot take is an overreaction or not an overreaction. Jonathan's got a bunch of them gathered up there. So, Jonathan, what do we got up first?
All right. Our first overreaction will go to you, Rob. This is from JC. And they say Project Hail Mary will be the best movie of the year.
Well, I don't think that's an overreaction, because I think for some people it's definitely going to be the best film of the year. For me, I wanted it to be the best film of the year, and I thought it was really good, but it stopped short of being great for me because, as I've said before, I felt they needed to amp up the peril on Earth. But so I don't think it's an overreaction, although I don't think it's going to be the best movie of the year for me.
Yeah, I think saying Project Hail Mary will be ultimately, by the time the year ends, the best film of the year. I think it's an overreaction. Now, that's me saying that I believe easily it is still currently the best film of the year. Like I liked it significantly more than Rob did, to be honest with you. I think it's just bonkers good. But I also think there's 3 or 4 or 5 films that have very, very strong potential to be even better. And because, like, I think if there was like 1 or 2, I would say, yeah, it's not an overreaction, but I think there's still a good number of films that have the potential to be better than Project Hail Mary, which I still think is the best of the year so far. But I'm going to say, calling it that it's going to be the best film of the year, even by the end of the year, I'll call that one an overreaction. All right, Jonathan, what do we got up next?
All right. Next up, we're going to hear from either Muse Team or Must Team. Is this an overreaction, John? Spider-Man is single-handedly the most popular and profitable single character IP in Hollywood.
This is one of those ones where I have a very strong first reaction, and then I think about it for a second, and I completely change my mind. My first reaction is, okay, yeah, I get it. Spider-Man's about to come out, and we're all talking about Spider-Man and blah, blah, blah. But then I thought about it. It's like, well, who's bigger? Nobody. Nobody and nothing. There hasn't been a single character movie in the history of Hollywood that's made as much money as Spider-Man No Way Home. There just hasn't been. Avatar is a big sweeping epic, kind of story with a whole bunch of things. Avengers as well, 40 main characters crammed into one movie, but Spider-Man's Spider-Man. And so I'm going to have to go against my first reaction on this, Rob. I actually think saying that Spider-Man is the single biggest IP individual character in all of Hollywood, maybe Hollywood history, I mean, I can't call that an I'm going to say it's not an overreaction. What do you think?
I don't think it's an overreaction either. I mean, I think there are other characters. James Bond, has 25 movies. I mean, it hasn't grossed as much as Spider-Man. I don't think collectively, maybe it has adjusted for inflation, but there are other characters that are older characters that you'd have to look into, like Tarzan, but that doesn't mean anything right now. And then of course, Batman. And then Iron Man's got to be in there now too, because of the Iron Man movies and how many Iron Man films that Iron Man appeared in that weren't Iron Man, like the Avengers movies. So, but that said, Spider-Man is definitely in the conversation. And I think Spider-Man's viability is a proven commodity. And Spider-Man also, if you add in the Avengers movies, it's got to be right up there. So I don't think it's an overreaction at all.
Yeah, I get the people in the live chat who are saying Batman too, but like I prefer Batman personally. But the reality is no Batman movie has made half the amount that Spider-Man No Way Home did. I mean, think about that for a second. No Batman movie has ever made half of what Spider-Man No Way Home did. Which is, wait, no. I completely take that back. That's not true at all. It did make a little over half, but still short by several hundreds millions of dollars. So yeah, I got to go with not an overreaction. All right, Jonathan, what we got up next?
All right, Rob, sticking with you over there in your mason jars. Is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from Spider Fan. James Gunn will direct the first DCU Batman movie.
Read that today that he might replace Andy Muschietti to direct Brave and the Bold. At this point, I can't say it's an overreaction because it could happen. He's the most successful director in their stable of directors with his Guardians of the Galaxy movies, Superman. So it wouldn't surprise me if that were the case. So I can't say it's an overreaction. However, I don't think he's going to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he absolutely should not direct the next Batman. Because he's supposed to be the head of the company. And this drives me nuts. But I'm going to say it's not an overreaction. I mean, look, we've talked I remember last year talking about the fact that there were some clear cracks happening between James Gunn and Andy Muschietti. Like communication breakdowns where Andy Muschietti was saying some things publicly and then James Gunn would come out publicly and say, actually, that's not true. And it's like, and then we find out the two of them have had, at least for that period of time, had like no communication between each other for like 6 months or something like that. So I really don't think Andy Muschietti is going to be directing this film. I don't think he will be. It's not that I don't think he should. I'm just saying I don't think ultimately, I don't think he will be. We'll see. But yeah, I think there might be pressure. Now, of course, all this is contingent that James Gunn is still there. And you guys know I don't think James Gunn is still going to be there. I think he's going to say bye-bye and thanks for all the fish. I think he's going to leave after his 2027 contract is over. I think he's going to say so long and go take another opportunity. But if we're going to assume that he's still there and he wants to stay, I unfortunately, and I don't want to do this, but I unfortunately have to say, I don't think it's an overreaction to think that he's going to direct the Batman movie himself. All right. What do we got up next, Jonathan?
All right, John, we're going to stick with you now on this possible overreaction from Isaac Matthew Sanchez. After a lot of horror movies that dominated last year and now this year, all future movies will be all things horror.
Total overreaction. Absolute and complete overreaction. Number one, look, I loved Obsession. I think Backrooms is really good. You know, I thought Sinners was the best film of 2025. But that being said, this narrative out there that horror is dominating. No, it's not. No, it's not. As a matter of fact, if I open up, give me a second here. If I open up, because I was looking at this for something else earlier. If I open up, okay, there are 2 horror films in the top 10 box office films of the year so far, number 7 and number 9. That's not horror dominating the movies. If I go back to 2025, there is exactly none. Hold on a second. That can't be true. Nope, none. There are no horror films in the top 10 from 2025. The highest grossing horror film of 2025 is number 15. And that was Conjuring the Last Rites, which was better than it had any rights being. So this narrative that horror is dominating, it's not. It's showing very well for itself, but it is not dominating. And even if you go to something like Obsession, which I love, but Obsession right now has 406 million, which is great for what it is. Absolutely phenomenal for what it is, but put it into context. Project Hail Mary's made more than it. Devil Wears Prada made more than it. Toy Story 5's made more than it. Michael's made more than it. Super Mario Brothers Galaxy's made more than it. We've got about 15 other films that are coming out. So yeah, it's done very well for itself, but horror is not dominating anything right now. I'm not saying it should. I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm just saying it isn't. And that's a fact. So I'm going to call this an overreaction. Rob, you are more of a horror aficionado than I am. So I don't know, saying that horror is going to continue to dominate moving forward, overreaction or not.
Well, I mean, horror has always been with us. And, you know, the thing about horror is it for very little money, you can get a big return. And I think that's a great thing. But the thing about horror movies is they don't have staying power. They don't have the same kind of staying power as, say, the Toy Story franchise does. And so while I love horror films, and I'm going to see Evil Dead Burn today, along with The Invite, I can't wait. I think that as a box office mainstay, horror is great at a certain budget level. But let's remember, what we're seeing with Backrooms and Obsession is not the norm. And not every horror movie can do the business, say, Exorcist did when it first came out back in the 70s. So I don't think horror dominates, but horror continues to be a vibrant way to make big money on small budgets if they're well handled. So I don't think dominates the really, I think dominate isn't the word. Robust is a better word. Horror continues to be robust at the box office.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. All right, Jonathan, I think we got one left. What's next?
2 left, actually.
Okay.
Unless you want to cut me off here, but we've got.
No, let's do that. Let's do it.
Okay. So Rob, we're going to hear from Guillermo Ramirez, who says, after Dune Part 3, the Denis Villeneuve trilogy will be the greatest movie trilogy of all time.
Well, Lord of the Rings is the #1 trilogy. I think that there is an argument that might be made for that, but I just think that the thing about Dune is, I think Dune is more of an acquired taste than, say, Lord of the Rings is. It works in a different way. I think that you can say that, like with Lord of the Rings, because it has the subject matter and the care with which it was brought to the screen, it's definitely one of the great trilogies of all time, because it was taken from its source material. It wasn't sort of made up as they went along. But I don't know if it's the best trilogy of all time, because I don't think it has the same kind. It's more experiential, as John would say, than it is, say, emotional, like Lord of the Rings is emotional. So it's a different kind. I mean, I find the Dune movies are more of an experience, but you can't, they're more difficult to sit down and like watch, just enjoying them like late at night, because I want to play them loud. You know, it's a different kind of an experience. But there's an argument to be made. So I don't think it's an overreaction.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's not an overreaction. Now, look, to me, it's hard to imagine that anything will ever displace Star Wars. And when I mean Star Wars, I obviously mean the original trilogy, that anything will ever displace Star Wars for me. And it's also very difficult for me to imagine anything displacing Lord of the Rings from the #2 spot for me. But the reality is, Dune 2 is the best movie made in the last decade, in my opinion. Granted, it's more highbrow, it's more philosophical, it's more cerebral, it's more all that kind of stuff. I get it, and that's not for everybody. That's why I always said, going back to the first Dune movie coming out, it's like you can never expect Dune movies to be billion-dollar films, because not everybody likes what these movies are going to be. But for those of us who do appreciate that stuff, it's remarkable. If Dune 3, and guys, wait until you see the opening 7 or 8 minutes. For those of you who are going to go see the Odyssey on 70mm, they're going to be showing the opening 7 minutes of Dune 3. You are going to be wetting your seats. You're going to be wetting yourselves. But if Dune 3 can be on the same level or better, which is a way tall order, and it's a very big if, but if it is, even I am going to have to start questioning the positioning of the top 3 greatest trilogies of all time. I'm going to have to start to think about it, because Dune 2 to me, again, is the best movie of the last decade. And if Dune 3 is even better than it, it might have to be in the conversation. I don't suspect. So I'll go along with what you were saying there, Rob. I don't suspect it will be, but it is absolutely within the realm of possibility. So I will say it's not an overreaction. All right. What's our last one here, Jonathan?
All right, John. This one comes from Excalibur. And they say Spider-Man and the Odyssey will do more total combined box office than Doomsday. Let them fight.
Oh my God. That's a good one. So all eyes have obviously been on Doomsday, right? So we got Avengers Doomsday and Dune 3 coming out same day. Way you go. But we do have two other big films opening in very close proximity to each other, being Spider-Man Brand New Day and the Odyssey. Look, the ceiling, I think, for Spider-Man Brand New Day and the Odyssey, I think is close to $3 billion between those two. I think the ceiling for Avengers Doomsday and Dune 3 is probably about $3.2, $3.3 billion. Which means, Rob, even at my perceived ceilings for both, it's close. And I love the question. You know what? Okay. I believe Doomsday, the combination of Dune 3 and Avengers Doomsday, will make more money than the combination of Spider-Man and the Odyssey. But I think it's close enough that I will call this not necessarily an overreaction. I don't think it's all that far-fetched to think that this combo of movies could maybe actually outduel Dune 3 and Doomsday. So again, I think Doomsday will prevail, but I don't think it's crazy to think this one will. I don't know, Rob, what do you think?
I'm with you. I don't think it's an overreaction either. I think it is definitely a horse race, you know, and we have seen movies that we thought were going to be good not do nearly as well as we thought. Now, we're all going by the fact that, like, let's bring back the expectations for Doomsday. You've still got Dune 3, which I think Dune 3 is going to hit those heights. It could get to $1 billion depending on how good it is. It certainly looks at, especially from the trailer we saw the other day. And I think it's a horse race, dude. I just think it's going to be very close. Again, depending on the quality of the films. We know for a fact that Spider-Man and Odyssey and Dune 3 are certain levels of quality because we've experienced some of them ourselves. Doomsday is a little bit more. All I've got was we got the trailer at CinemaCon, which was only representative of a very small portion of the movie.
Yes.
So I'm still the jury's still out for me, even though my hopes are very, very high. But I think it's still going to be. It's very comparable. Of all the pairings you could have, these two are very comparable.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about all this stuff? You got an opinion about, I mean, is Doomsday or Spider-Man and Odyssey going to be bigger? Do you think James Gunn will direct Batman? Whatever questions we have, whatever you think, jump down to the comments section below and leave your thoughts there. And remember, guys, keep your eyes open for the next time we put out a call for submissions of your hottest of hot takes. And maybe you'll see your hot take featured here on Overreaction. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, we are now getting closer and closer to Spider-Man. We're 19 days away. 19 days away from the first public screenings of Spider-Man Brand New Day. And as we start to get closer, you know, there are the long-range box office forecasts. Then as you get within a couple of weeks, they put out their next updated box office forecast. That's where we are right now. And then a few days, you know, probably about a week before its opening weekend, we get the final projections. Well, the updated projections of Spider-Man Brand New Day are now out, and they're looking pretty good. As I go over and take a look at Spider-Man No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home, you'll all remember, had an insane opening weekend of $260 million. Now, as of right now, the new projections are saying that Spider-Man Brand New Day, as of right now, are still under what Spider-Man No Way Home was. And of course, Spider-Man No Way Home very nearly joined the $2 billion club. it like made about 1.9, 1.91, 1.92 billion dollars. It's one of the highest grossing films in history. But the projections have bumped up. Now, again, like most things, different outlets are projecting different numbers. The lowest number I am seeing right now being projected, and this is everybody saying the bottom, is about 190 million, with the absolute ceiling being 250. So, anywhere around there is what they're saying Spider-Man No Way Home could be, which would easily and clearly devastate the current thing. Because right now, the biggest opening weekend of the year, I think, is Toy Story, which is, I think, what was it, 160 something million opening weekend. Super Mario, I think, has something like 130. Michael had somewhere around 90, something like in those ballparks.
Yeah, 160 for Toy Story.
160 for Toy Story. So it's going to obliterate the biggest opening weekend of the year so far, like absolutely obliterate it. The question now is, by how much? How big is this movie actually going to open to? And I know we feel like we've got to have this conversation every couple of weeks, well, because the numbers now come out. And before, the ceiling they were saying was around 220. Now they're saying the ceiling could be around 240, 250. So it keeps nudging up. And, it's particularly interesting when you think about where the movie industry has been for the past 5 or 6 years, especially coming out of the pandemic. And some people thought, understandably so, that we would never again see, like as we were just coming, especially fresh out of the pandemic, and the movie theaters were just opening again, and it was really tough getting people back into the movie theaters. There were a lot of people who believed, understandably so, that we would never again see a day when we're talking about a movie maybe opening to $200 million. That we're talking about a movie that could possibly challenge for 2 billion. Like, a lot of people thought those days were behind us, long gone and far behind us. And again, I don't blame anybody for those thoughts. But I think also we fail to appreciate, Rob, when we're looking at tracking and we're seeing numbers like this for a movie, which is like just absolutely nuts, to the point that there are actually some people, Rob, who still believe that Spider-Man will make more money than Avengers Doomsday, which I think is lunacy. I think Doomsday is easily going to handle Spider-Man. Of course, all things depending on how they turn out. But so, Rob, my question is for you now. We've seen the updated revised numbers on the projections. We've had some more time. We've had another trailer come out since the last time.
Yep.
How are you feeling right now about where the projections are, and ultimately how big of an opening do you think Spider-Man Brand New Day can actually have?
Well, in a way, the Spider-Man franchise, since it began in 2002, you have 3 Tobey Maguire movies, 2 Andrew Garfield movies, and this is the 4th Tom Holland movie. I mean, everybody loves Spider-Man. As far as a beloved character goes, and this movie looks like it's been brought down to earth. They've got rid of the Tony Stark mentorship thing, so he's really his own man. I think you're going back to the stripped down version of Spider-Man, where he truly is. They even make a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man joke in the trailer. I think this movie is going to be huge. I think because this movie, like the Toy Story franchise, it is a franchise that even when it gets a little goofy, like Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3, it still delivered the fun. You never walked out going, "No, that sucked." Maybe some people did, but I mean, it was still fun. You still have a great time watching Spider-Man do his thing, because there's some wish fulfillment there. We are, John, all of us, Spider-Man, and from the time you put your underoos on to now. If I put underoos on, I'd probably jump off my bed pretending I'm swinging around, even though I'm almost dead. And I think that this is a franchise that is probably going to even exceed expectations. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say that.
So let me ask you to put a number to it, like right now, and we'll let you revisit this as we get closer to the release. But as of right now, where do you see Spider-Man opening?
207.
All right. You know what? Usually you go higher than I do. I'm going to go a little bit higher. I already had this number in my head. I'm going to go 210. I think
All
it
right.
opens. I think it opens to 210. I don't think it reaches Spider-Man No Way Home. Again, it's just missing too
Yeah.
much. Marvel isn't on the same hot streak as it was when No Way Home came out. It's not coming right on the heels of Endgame like No Way Home was. There's still not quite as many people going to the movie theaters as there were when No Way Home does. Like all that and you don't have the Andrew and Toby factor as well. But I still think it's going to be massive. It's going to be one of the biggest openings of the year, one of the biggest openings of the past 5 years. I'm going to say
For sure.
210. For now,
All
I'm
right.
going to say 210. Actually, Jonathan, I haven't asked you. You got a guess on this about how big Spider-Man is actually going to open up in theaters here on its opening weekend?
I think it's fair to say that it's in the low 200s, but the thing that throws
There are
me off,
ninjas. There are ninjas.
there's
I
ninjas.
know.
They just need to add some dinosaurs. The thing that's throwing me off on this,
You don't know
is
that they haven't.
the
That's
overwhelming
true.
response. The overwhelming response to the trailers. I mean, the views on the trailers have been massive. That doesn't mean that's going to equate 1-to-1. It won't. I mean, it could be 220. I'm going to go 220.
Okay, so you're
I'm
going to
gonna
go
go
higher
220.
than the rest of us. So Rob's going.
I'm just going to
207.
bet big. I'm betting big here, admittedly, but I'm going to
So
go 220.
we're in order here. We're going from there to you 207, 210. You're going 220. All right, let's revisit this whole thing. Somebody's saying, John, rewatchability. Yeah, but rewatchability usually comes into play the following week. Not the exact, not 5 hours later, because it's probably going to be all sold out opening weekend. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The latest rounds of projections, the second to last one we're going to get on Spider-Man, are now come out and it's bumped up. It's trending upwards. Now they're saying anywhere between like 190 and 250 at the absolute ceiling. I don't see 250, but I do see 210. Jonathan thinks as high as 220. How big do you think this movie can open to? Whatever you guys think, jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that all down, it's now time for us to move on and start taking your live questions that you guys have been sending in. I am turning off the super chats, by the way, you guys, just so you know. So you got like 30 more seconds if you want to fire one in, but then I'm turning them off. Of course, I want to thank our technical director, Jonathan Voico, for being here. We'll talk to you next week.
See you guys later.
And of course, from the Observatory, one director, producer, writer, Robert Meyer Burnett. Thanks for being here, sir.
Going to that double feature, John. Again, The Invite and Evil Dead Burn.
Oh, you know what? I've put off my screening of The Invite because we had a few friends of ours that really want to watch it with us. And we're like, well, great. It'll be our second screening. They're like, please don't watch it until we see it together. So I'm going to now see it on Sunday. So I'll probably do my review for it on Sunday night. But now because our friends want to watch it with us for the first time. So I cannot wait.
Bet they do.
A lot of people are saying this is going to be like a Best Picture nominee. Like a lot of the award sites are already saying that The Invite is going to be a Best Picture nominated film. So I cannot wait to watch it. All right, we'll talk to you next week, Rob. Have a good one. And
All right,
now,
you too.
guys, for you, it is time for us to get on and start taking your live comments and questions. And of course, right now, I'm just turning off the super chats. Thank you to everybody who's already sent them in. And let's get things rolling here, shall we? If I can fiddle my way through and actually get this up on screen, which there we go. Okay. I think we're going to start things off here with Christopher, I believe. Yes, Christopher Diaz writes, how was The Invite? Again, I was supposed to see it last night, had my tickets, but Ann and I had some friends of ours said, please, we want to watch it with you guys for the first time. And so I'm like, all right. So I canceled my ticket. And I did not. So instead, last night, I got caught up on Vox Machina Season 4. Ann and I blitzed through Vox Machina Season 4 last night. So we're all caught up on that. But now I got to wait until Sunday to go and see The Invite, which I'm very, very excited about. All right. Next up, Jai CSC writes, what movie do you and Ann have opposing opinions on? The biggest, I mean, obviously a lot of movies for sure, but the biggest example of one is my number 2 all-time favorite horror film. My second all-time favorite horror film, The Descent. Anne hates it. She thinks it's terrible. And to me, it's like my second favorite horror film of all time, only behind American Werewolf in London. So yeah, that's a big one that we have opposing views on. All right, next up. Rich Reviews writes, when the history of man is written, which TV station will be remembered better? AMC or Showtime? Showtime. Yeah, AMC's had some really, really good stuff, but Showtime, I know this is kind of off topic. And for those of you who've watched me for a number of years, you might have heard this story already, but let me tell it here. I remember the first time I got to meet and interview Sir Anthony Hopkins. I never get nervous around celebrities. There's a couple of exceptions. Harrison Ford was one of them. George Lucas was one of them. Just a couple of guys. But when you're getting ready to go in and meet Sir Anthony Hopkins, I was a little bit nervous. And I was so nervous, I even asked one of his PR people before I went in to talk to him. I said, does he prefer to be referred to as Mr. Hopkins, Sir Anthony? How does he prefer it? He said, oh, I haven't really thought about it. He said, maybe be safe and just go Sir Anthony. I'm like, all right. So I go in to sit down and talk to Anthony Hopkins. I can't even remember the name of the movie. It's the one where it was the Possession movie where he plays a priest. I can't remember the name of it. If you guys in the live chat can remember the name of that one, throw it in there. So they say, okay, Mr. Hopkins is ready for you. And I go into the room and I go to shake his hand and I go, Sir Anthony, I decided to go with Sir Anthony. I go, Sir Anthony, it is such an honor to meet you. And he goes, Sir Anthony, and he grabs my hand for the handshake. The Right. Thank you. Just Sully. Got it. That was the name of the movie. The Right. Thank you. So he goes, Sir Anthony, and as he's shaking my hand and he pulls me in and he gives me this big hug. He's, oh, my dear boy. I'm like, okay, this is already the greatest day ever. But here's where it connects to the AMC Showtime thing. At the time, I was working for AMC Theaters. And he basically says to me as we sit down and we just start our conversation. He goes, oh, with AMC. I'm like, yeah. He goes, absolutely adore. What was the big show? Mad Men? Was that the show on AMC or Walking Dead? One of the two. I can't remember the one, but Anthony Hopkins brings up this show on AMC. He goes, oh, I absolutely love you guys. I love that show. And I say to him, I said, well, you know what's funny, Sir Anthony? I said, I work at AMC and I myself just recently realized that AMC, the TV network, and AMC movie theaters were two separate companies. They're not part of our company. So I say that to him, right? And Sir Anthony takes it and goes, no, I'm fairly sure you're the same company. And I'm at that moment thinking to myself, am I going to correct Sir Anthony Hopkins? No, I am not. So I just let that go and went on with the rest of the conversation. Sure, Sir Anthony, same company. And then we went on and had our conversation. Just agree and move on. So that's what I did. But anyway, yes, I think Showtime. I'll go with Showtime on that. All right. Thanks, Rich. Next up, Yakov writes, did you and Ann watch Dogman yet? Nope, haven't seen it. Rich Reviews writes, do you think we will ever see a third Elizabeth I movie with Cate Blanchett? Probably not. I don't think so. He also writes, better cult movie, Rocky Horror or Somewhere in Time. I'm not even sure Somewhere in Time counts as a cult movie. I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of the right one. Anyway, so easily Rocky. I think whenever you ask the question, better cult movie, if Rocky Horror is part of that discussion, the answer is Rocky Horror. All right. Thanks, Rich. Cassidy Kelly writes, X-Men 97 is so fire. However, I'm intrigued to see what your issues are. Storm, Jubilee, and Magneto are standouts. I like it. I'm still watching it. I'm going to finish watching the season. I'm going to watch every episode as they come out. I just don't like it as much as you do. That's all. All right. Bob Ridge sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that, man. And Bob writes in, one of the most impressive things about Obsession's box office run is that hardly anyone is talking anymore about the $360 million Backrooms has made on a $10 million budget. Any other year, that would be the top box office success story. Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, Bob, I think every year there are movies that come out that create a big story that if they weren't there, another movie would have got that attention, right? I think that happens every year. But I'll tell you one, and I don't know, I can't vouch for this, but to me, the most impressive thing about Obsession, and I'm just got to see if I can find this and make sure I've got the right one. Okay. Here it is. Okay. So Jonathan wrote into our group text earlier. I just got to see if I can find it. Okay, I can't find it, but Jonathan put this in our group text earlier, and I need to double check to see if this is actually true. But apparently, oh, here it is. Jonathan wrote this to us. Obsession is now on day 55 of making at least $1 million. It made at least $1 million 55 days in a row. Now, again, I'm only saying what Jonathan put into our group text earlier. That maybe he's wrong, but I don't often find fact checker Jonathan to be wrong. But 55 straight days. Michael didn't do that. I don't know that Mario Brothers did that, even though they've made significantly more money than Obsession has. But 55 straight days of $1 million at the box office or more. That is crazy numbers. Crazy numbers, Bob. All right. Thanks a lot for that, man. Appreciate that very much. All right. Life Entertainment writes, if Nolan wins another Best Picture, is it fair to start conversations that he's the best director of all time? Nah, listen, you guys know I adore Christopher Nolan. I do. But I think we're still a decade away from having him in that conversation. I think we're still a decade away from him being in that conversation. Like, just to put it into perspective, let me bring it up here. If I bring up, I've lost count of how many of Steven Spielberg's movies have been nominated for Best Picture. It's a lot, though. It's a lot. If I go over to his awards thing, you know what? Let me put this over here. How many? I'm on IMDb of Steven Spielberg's movies have been nominated for Best Picture. I can't believe I don't know this off the top of my head. Just doing a quick search here of IMDb. All right, guys, are you ready for this? Steven Spielberg has had 14 of his movies be nominated for Best Picture. 14. Jaws, Raiders, E.T., Color Purple, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, Munich, which is a horrendously underappreciated film. Munich is awesome. Disturbing, too. Letters from Iwo Jima, War Horse, Lincoln, Bridge of Spies, another tragically underrated film of his. The Post, amazing. West Side Story, amazing. The Fabelmans, amazing. He's had 14 films nominated for Best Picture. 14. But listen, he's been doing it a lot longer than Christopher Nolan has. You know, Scorsese has been doing it a lot longer than Christopher Nolan has. You know, there are a bunch of directors. So I would say this. Let's say Odyssey wins Best Picture this year. I think Christopher Nolan then would become only the fourth director in history to win Best Picture in back-to-back years. Oh, no, it wouldn't even be back-to-back years. It's only, do you know this only happened 3 times that a director's won Best Picture in back-to-back years? I think the last guy to do it was John Ford for How Green Is My Valley. I think that was the last guy to do it. Could be wrong about that, but I think that's the last guy to do it. But listen, as big of a fan as I am of Christopher Nolan, I'm sorry. If you know the first thing about movies in Hollywood, he can't hold Steven Spielberg's jockstrap. He can't. Nobody can. 14 of his movies nominated for across every possible genre. Right? Across all genres, other than maybe horror. But yeah, I'm sorry, but can Christopher Nolan catch up to Spielberg? Him and Denis Villeneuve are the only 2 guys right now who could possibly catch up to Steven Spielberg. But again, these are conversations it's a joke to even have the conversation, at least not for another 10 years. at least for not another 10 years. Because you got to give Christopher Nolan, I would maybe even 15 years. Give Christopher Nolan a chance here. Give him an opportunity to make another 4, 5, 6 movies to add to his filmography, and then we can start looking at it. But I'm sorry, when you go down Steven Spielberg's filmography, you're talking about the greatest movies ever made. Like some of the most celebrated all-time greatest movies. The same guy who made Jaws is the same guy who made Raiders of the Lost Ark, is the same guy who made Schindler's List, is the same guy who made E.T., is the same guy who made, oh God, like, I don't know, Saving Private Ryan, is the same guy. Like, I'm sorry, but it's frankly hilarious. Now, if you think anybody touches that, nobody does. Now, what is fair though, what is fair is if you think right now, July 10th, 2026, if you think right now that Christopher Nolan is a better director right now than Steven Spielberg, who's approaching his 80s, is right now, that's fair. That's fair. It's like SGA is a better player right now than LeBron James is. Do you think SGA comes anywhere close to LeBron James in overall career? No, he does not. LeBron James is legitimately in the greatest of all time conversation. SGA, good Canadian kid, a long ways off from that. So it's fair to have the conversation about who you like better right now. But I'm sorry, guys, the minute you try to have that debate, and I just point to this director has 14 of his films nominated for best picture. 14 of them. I'm sorry, the discussion's over. It's over. It just is. Anyway, that's kind of my take on it at any rate. Thanks, Life Entertainment. So give Christopher Nolan, he's still, by Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese standards, Christopher Nolan's still really young. Give him another decade or two. And maybe he will. Again, I think there are only 2 directors on the planet right now who have the chance and who have a realistic shot of catching Spielberg. And that is Denis Villeneuve and that is Christopher Nolan. They're the only 2 guys who have a shot, but they're both a long ways off right now. Both a long ways off. All right. Joshua writes, just watched Amadeus. Oh, Amadeus is so good. Oh my God, that movie's so good. I haven't watched it in a while, man. Anyway, just watched Amadeus for the first time last night. One of the best movies I've seen. Yeah, and I believe it won Best Picture. Correct me if I'm wrong in the live chat, but I believe Amadeus won Best Picture. The year it came out. Amadeus is so good, man. Like, whoo, that movie's so good. I love it. I'm so glad you had a chance to watch that, man. All right, Chef Rigo is here. Chef Rigo writes, let's see where we at. Hey, John, it's been a while since I sent a super chat, and I hope everything is well. Everything is really good. My question, what 2 teams do you have reaching the World Cup final? I believe they're in the opposite sides of the bracket, so I think, look, France looks unstoppable. They had a little bit of a scare last week, yes, but they really look unstoppable. I mean, the way they handled Morocco was pretty impressive. And I'm not the world's foremost expert on soccer. Yes, guys, it's called soccer. That term came from Europe. It was the English who came up with the term soccer. It was used for a long, long time. We just adopted it too. So don't get your little panties in a twist. But I'm no expert on soccer, but they have looked really flawless. I mean, watching them play. So I think it's going to be France versus Argentina. Messi is just insane. Like I feel like anytime Messi wants to throw a switch, he can just score at will. So I'm going to go Mbappe and France and Messi, the little wizard, and Argentina. That's why I think, I mean, again, I'm no expert, but we'll see. All right. Next up, Animesh writes, bring Oscar Isaac back as Apocalypse. Fuck no. He comes out this Comic-Con and goes, new face, same case. New face, same case. New mask, same task. New face, same case. Very bad suggestion, but wait, well, listen. I love Oscar Isaac. I think he's great. I don't think Oscar Isaac is good. I think Oscar Isaac is great. I love that dude. And I do not put the blame on him for X-Men Apocalypse. I don't put the blame on him at all. But we need to let that go. That should never be brought back up again. That one absolutely needs to be let go. All right. Next up, A. Marcellus writes, whatever they do with X-Men in the MCU, for the love of God, please treat Cyclops with the utmost respect. This man needs to get the Steve Rogers level of respect. You know, despite the fact that there was X-Men 3 and yes, there was Wolverine and X-Men Dark Phoenix. And yeah, they had some misses, no doubt. I am still an unabashed fan of the Fox era of X-Men films. But the one, obviously, I think what almost the whole world agrees on, almost, is that Marsden and the character of Cyclops were terribly handled. Terribly handled. And I'm not just saying that, saying, I want you to give my favorite characters all the most screen time. Cyclops isn't one of my favorite characters, but he is who he is. Like, I'm sorry, Cyclops is the X-Men, right? Like he's just the X-Men. He's the representation of everything about the X-Men. And I think that now they didn't handle all the characters perfect. No, but there's no bigger glaring obvious botching than the way they handled the Cyclops character. He absolutely needs. Now, I don't think you need to. I don't necessarily agree, A. Marcellus, you have to give him the Captain America treatment. I don't know that you have to go that far, but I wouldn't object to it either. But you do have to give him a lot more respect than what the original Fox X-Men series gave him. Anyway, that's just kind of my thought. Thanks, A. Marcellus. All right, next up. Jeff writes, Darwin Cook would have loved your criticism of X-Men 97. Writing for young viewers is sorely missing in comics and cartoons in the last 30 years. But here's my criticism. This is one of the things I want to bring up. Because I saw a couple of people in the live chat when I was talking about my critiques of X-Men 97, particularly of season 2, which I still like. Please don't lose sight of that. I still like it. But, you know, I saw a couple of people writing in the live chat, well, what's wrong with writing for younger audiences? Okay. If your goal is to write for younger audiences, give younger audiences more respect than that. Don't underestimate. I find this has been true with a lot of movies and some TV shows that write for younger audiences. They underestimate the younger audience. Now, yes, you are going to write a little bit different for something that you're writing for a younger audience than you are for the people watching The Sopranos. Sure, yes. But I find a lot of writing in Hollywood underestimates the younger audience, and you don't need to talk below them. Give younger, when I say younger, I don't mean 5-year-olds, but I mean, when you're talking about younger audiences, you're talking about 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, whatever. I find a lot of Hollywood writing underestimates that age bracket. Sometimes they're a lot more literate than adults are, particularly in this country, because they haven't learned to be stupid yet. Which let's face it, sometimes a lot of us as we get older, we don't get much smarter. Let's be honest. Anyway, I think people underestimate the younger audience, and I don't think you need to write below them. That's just kind of my take on it. Anyway, don't write below them. All right. Next up, A.A. Ron writes, love seeing you and Ann embrace D&D with the pick. Are you familiar with the Dritz Du Erden books from R.A. Salvatore? Needs an animated series. I'm not, like, I'm very familiar with R.A. Salvatore, but I'm not familiar with those books myself. Like, if those are specific D&D books, like maybe even Forgotten Realm books, which I'm going to guess is what those fall under, I don't read a lot of that fiction, to be honest with you. Like, I love D&D. I've played D&D since I was 13 years old. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since the soft cover, like little booklets that were like 40 pages big, right? I've been playing D. Now they're like these big tomes. But I've never read a lot of the fantasy material that's then been attached with it. I'm not saying I should or shouldn't. I'm just saying I really haven't. But we've got a really great, you know what we've done? So we have a great campaign going right now. For the longest time, Anne, my wife Anne, has also been our dungeon master. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it here, but I'm going to see. Let me see if I can find an image here. That's just kind of fun. But yeah, for a bunch of years, my wife has been our dungeon master. And yeah, here's a bit of a picture. There's a picture of Anne being our DM. Oh, and if you're wondering about the table, that table is one we had custom made. So you see the guy right here? That's our buddy Spencer. And Spencer works in the film industry. And he's a designer. And what we did was I had this 65-inch TV I wasn't using anymore. And we needed a new dining table. So I talked to Spencer. I said, what do you think? So Spencer designed this big D&D table, and we put the 65-inch television under the glass in the table. And then Anne is able to connect to it wirelessly, and she's able to bring up the maps, and she's able to bring up like images and whatever, and it's just a lot of fun. Anyway, so for a lot of years, Anne was our dungeon master, and she's great. But Anne got to the point of like, oh, I don't want to put in all the work to DM the games, and I kind of want to play. So we thought about me dungeon mastering, because I do run my Star Wars role-playing game groups. But we thought, that wouldn't be good either. So you know what we did? Because Anne worked at Hasbro for a lot of years, and Hasbro owned Wizards of the Coast, who make Dungeons and Dragons, she had a lot of high-level connections at Wizards of the Coast. So what Anne did was she got a hold of a guy who had been at Wizards of the Coast for a lot of years, and he full-time does dungeon mastering. And so what we do is we bring him in remotely, and he runs now. We have this guy from this Wizards of the Coast veteran, like Dungeons and Dragons publishers veteran. He now runs, he's our DM, and he runs our game. So now what happens is on Sunday nights, our friends come over and we all sit around the table, and we put the owl camera in the middle of the table, and he like speaks to us from Seattle. I think he's in Seattle. And so he runs the game from Seattle, and he's able to remotely bring up all the graphics and the maps and everything for us remotely. And yeah, I honestly really look forward to Sunday nights. Number one, because we get to watch House of the Dragon, but also because we get to play Dungeons and Dragons. And we have a great group. I love our friends that play, and we have a great game master, a great dungeon master. So that's that. Anyway, sorry guys. Let's get back over to the questions here, shall we? Oh, that was the last question. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I still got a few minutes here. So if you guys are still with me here in the live chat, and thank you to all of you who are, if you guys have a question for me in the live chat, I'm not going to answer all of them. I'm just going to cherry pick a couple. Put in all capital letters the word question, like I've got in the live chat there, colon, and then a question. That way I know you're specifically asking me a question. All right, so let's start with Josh. It says, which one do you dislike the most, Birds of Prey or Joker 2 or Supergirl? Well, here's the thing. Birds of Prey was terrible, but it wasn't world-class awful. Supergirl, I don't even think is terrible. I just think it's bad. It's a bad film. It's not terrible, but it's bad. Joker 2 is terrible. Horrible. So easily Joker 2, I think, is the worst. Let's see here. Damash writes, if Gunn leaves DC, does he go back to Marvel or take a break from directing? Okay, this is what I think. I've got no proof of this. This is just me guessing as a fan, okay? But I really think he goes back to Marvel because Kevin Feige loves him. Him and Kevin are very, very tight. Remember, James Gunn said the very first person he called when he took the DC job was Kevin Feige. They've been very tight for many years. And I think he goes back to Marvel, instantly becomes the number 2 guy at Marvel, and becomes Kevin Feige's succession plan. Because you guys know, I don't think Kevin Feige is going to be around much longer. I think he's going to go take over a bigger studio at some point. And I think James Gunn becomes his succession plan. That's my guess. That's what I think happens. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. So there's that. Live in La Vida writes, do you think Secret Wars can get delayed? Nah. I think they've got everything scheduled out so tightly. I mean, can it get delayed? Any movie can get delayed. Odyssey could get delayed. Like, any movie can get delayed. So of course it's possible, but do I think it will get delayed? No. No, I don't. All right. Enigma is writing, what's the last game you played? The last game I played, and I haven't played in a few weeks. Actually, it might almost be 2 months since I've played. But the last game I played is Dispatch. For the great game, by the way, for those of you who know it. I think the last game I played was, like, if you don't count like playing some simple online poker or whatever, or I've got a couple of games. Like, I do like playing Risk on my phone, especially now that I've got the fold phone. So I've got like this huge screen to play Risk on. But the last game I played on my console, on my PlayStation, was Dispatch. That's the last game I played. I got to pick it up again. Let's see. Goodfellow writes, buy any collectibles lately? No, I'm trying not to buy any collectibles, but I don't know if I took a picture of this or not. Let me take a look. Ann and I just were in. Every once in a while, Ann and I like going to game shops. So we'll like go to random game shops, and we just like looking at gaming stuff, right? And there was this one, actually, I'll bring it up. I'll see if I can bring it up here so you guys can see it. Yeah. So we just found this brand new game shop that we just discovered. That's got like a whole ton of Dungeons and Dragons stuff in it. This is some video, and they had a lot of Warhammer stuff as well. But they had this beautiful, I can't believe I don't have a picture of it. They had this beautiful white dragon, this big white dragon. And there's a white dragon in the campaign we're playing in for Dungeons and Dragons. So we're like, okay, let's pull a Tom Hatherford and go, treat yourself. And so we bought this big white dragon figure and got it sitting in the middle of our game table. That's the last thing that I bought. Okay. Let's see. I'll take one or two more. Let's see. I Am Matthew says, Marvel making more announcements at D23 than at SDCC. Nah, they'll make their biggest and most announcements at San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah. They understand this. They understand what San Diego Comic-Con is. They always save some good stuff for D23. But where did they announce the biggest announcement they've done in almost a decade? That Robert Downey Jr. was coming back to the MCU to play Doctor Doom and announcing Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Where did they announce that? They announced it at Comic-Con. And so I do think they'll save some stuff for D23, absolutely. But I think the biggest and the bulk of the announcements they're going to be making is at CinemaCon. And by the way, I don't think they make a ton of announcements at CinemaCon. Or Comic-Con. I think they're going to use Comic-Con to pump and promote the stuff we know about. I do expect some announcements, but I don't think there's going to be as many announcements as you might think. I think they're going to spend the bulk of their time really pumping up the stuff that they're doing, but we'll see. Let's see here. Michael Scott writes, do you think Doomsday should at least be nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay? I haven't read the script. I don't know why all these people think I've read the script for Doomsday. I have not read the script. What happened a long time ago, now everybody knows it, so I'm not special. But about a year ago, I got fully read in. Like I had two separate individuals give me the full rundown of what happens in Doomsday. But I never said I read the script. I haven't read, so I don't know. I got to see the movie and we'll see. And by the way, even if I had read the script, how would I be able to say it should be nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay when we haven't seen most of the big award season movies that have come out yet? I haven't come out and won't come out for a few months. So yeah. Let's see here. I'll take one more. In your opinion, which will be the better movie, The Odyssey or Dune 3? Dune 3. I mean, it could be The Odyssey, but I think Dune 3. Now I'll take one other one. There's nothing interesting. Will you consider attending D20? No, fuck Disney. They suck. Disney sucks at their live events. Fuck Disney and their poor ass, terribly run individual stuff. I don't care. I know that a lot of people love Star Wars Celebration. Horribly run. D23, horribly run. They absolutely suck. I'll never waste any of my time going to any of their bullshit stuff again. Let's see. Last one. Okay. This one. Astonishing, or Ashton, I should say. Ashton writes, is The Prestige Nolan's most underrated film? No. Listen, I like The Prestige a lot. I do. I like the Prestige a lot. But I think it has a horrible ending. I think the ending to The Prestige with the big reveal, the prestige, if you will, at the end is terrible. Like really doesn't take away that everything else in the movie is really good. But I think the ending of The Prestige was such a terrible idea that it kind of takes it down a notch. To me, I think easily the most underrated Christopher Nolan film is Insomnia. I think Insomnia is absolutely his most underrated film. I love that movie. It's not my favorite Christopher Nolan movie, but I absolutely think it's his most underrated. So anyway, that's just kind of my opinion. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to the thousands of you guys who joined us in the live chat throughout the show. It's been awesome having you here. And to those of you who sent in the questions, number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. I'm going to be dropping, definitely doing an invite review over the weekend after I see it. And probably at some point going to be doing an open mic this weekend as well. I haven't done one of those for a bit, so I'll probably do one of those this weekend. Anyway, that will do it for me for now, guys. Thanks so much for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.